Hello fellow FPL managers, and in today's video it is going to be a little bit of a different one. We're not sort of reviewing anything or previewing anything. We're going to be looking at wildcards. It is the hot issue in FPL right now. So many people seem to be using their wildcards. So in today's video I'm going to go through the pros and the cons of why I think or why you think you should maybe use your wildcard this week or hold off. So the first point I do want to say is play it your own way. So we play FPL for fun, and I know it makes us stressful and angry and joyous and happy when it pays off well, but at the end of the day, you do it for fun. Do what you think is best. Of course, check out stats and facts and Reddit and Twitter and YouTube. Listen to advice, take it on board, but at the end of the day, just play it your own way. Do what you think is best. So now we'll get into the reasons why I think you shouldn't wildcard, and then a couple of reasons why maybe you should if it's for your team personally. Again, play your own way. Of course, you can think of the pros and cons here about why you should or shouldn't wildcard this game week. So first of all, when not to wildcard, and again, it's all my own opinions. First, really think about your team. So you can see on the screen right now, this is the team that I currently have. Is it really that bad? Look at fixtures, stats, and highlights. So a big thing right now, for example, if you look at my team, you've got Robertson and Sigurdsson. They've been blanking, but Robertson still looks really, really good. A lot of people are doubting double Liverpool defenders, but Virgil van Dijk is so dangerous on set pieces, and he's a really good bonus point magnet. Alexander-Arnold is still really attacking down the side. Robertson was arguably man of the match for most of the game against Southampton. Still looked really good attackingly in an attacking way. They've just been incredibly unlucky. Sigurdsson could have got 2 assists in that first Everton game. And again, in the last game against Watford, I think it was Richarlison plump right on Richarlison's head, headed over from about 8 yards. So it's just unlucky. And when you look at the future fixtures, Sigurdsson and Everton, they go off to Aston Villa, who look really likely to concede goals. And I know Everton's attack isn't the best, but when I'm looking at Sigurdsson, he should still be in this team. Even though he's blanked, you've just got to try and be a little bit more patient. Also, Perez has not had the best of times so far this season. He didn't play particularly against Chelsea, didn't do anything against Wolves, but he's away to Sheffield United next game. It seems like a bad move to take him out just before he goes to a newly promoted side. And when most people got Perez in, it wasn't all Vardy. It wasn't just because of those first 2 game weeks. We got them because after those 2 game weeks, they play against Sheffield United and Bournemouth. Newly promoted side, and Bournemouth, who have always pretty much conceded goals. So again, try to just be a little bit more patient and look at the team that you've got, not what other people have got, but what fires do you need to put out right now. So a side note on that obviously is Bournemouth. They have looked really poor in the first 2 games. We did get those players in for those first 2 games against Sheffield United and Aston Villa. Now they've got City in the next game week, and then I believe it's Leicester after that. So ideally, yeah, that's fine. But hopefully you did save a transfer from game week 1. So I'm looking at this now and thinking Fraser Wilson, maybe they have to go. That's fine. But shouldn't be wildcarding for me personally from this team. As much as I really want to do it, I shouldn't be doing it because the rest of the team is still pretty solid. The second point is really think about how important a wildcard is. If you use it now at the end of game week 2, you're done. You are with that team for about 15 game weeks. A lot of people had a great game week 1, sort of like 80 points, 90 points plus. That's fine. But a lot of people have found game week 2 really, really difficult. You're not the only one. So if you're wildcarding now, you're not going to have another opportunity to make massive changes with no points deductions for about 15 weeks. Which is an extremely long time if you're wildcarding after just 2 game weeks. There's also 2 international breaks to come, and anything can happen in those breaks in terms of form and injuries. So it's sort of known that international teams aren't the best. They don't take the best of care for players, and form particularly can really sort of hike or drop after those international breaks. And one bad game week, so game week 2 was bad. It wasn't great for me. I think I'm on like 40 points with Jota still left to play against United tonight. That's fine, but a lot of people didn't have a good game week 2, so don't just think, oh, I've had one bad game week does not break your entire season. And if you're worried about price rises, so I've missed them already. So Fraser is now down to 7.4, De Bruyne is up to 9.6, Ceballos, the Arsenal player, he's up to 5.6. So I've already missed those transfers now, but I shouldn't be wildcarding just for a couple of 0 millions because of one player, because it just feels like a wild card is just so much more precious than that, and prices can go down as well as go up. So Ceballos has got Liverpool and then Spurs. He blanks in those games, he'll probably go back down by 0.1 million. So it would seem silly to wildcard him in now when he could easily go down in the next 2 game weeks. And even if he doesn't, 5.6, 5.7 is still a great price, because if he does deliver against Liverpool and Spurs, then he is worth the money, so it's perfectly fine. So speaking of prices going up and down, Salla right now, Mohamed Salah, the top player of the last 2 seasons, is the most transferred out player. Over 100,000 transfers out for him right now. If he drops in price and then he bangs, don't you think his price is going to go up again? So try not to focus too much on price points right now. A lot of people will argue against that. That's fine, but I just don't feel that 0.1 or 0.2 million is worth wildcarding over. You know, look at Salah pre-Bournemouth before he hit that hat-trick away from home last season, and then his price basically soared for the rest of the season, and people transferred him out and they wildcarded, and it was a huge killer for a lot of people last season. So if you wildcard now, chances are you'll be itching as well to wildcard as soon as the next one becomes available, because you're doing it so early now. 15 weeks minimum until you can wildcard the next time. So then when you've done 15 weeks, you probably want to wildcard pretty soon again, and then that's it for the rest of the season. You are making kind of an emotional decision right now, and it's a short-term strategy planning. You're doing it thinking of the next sort of 5 game weeks instead of the next 15. So if you do wildcard now, the chances are you'll wildcard again early for your second wildcard, and then that is it for the rest of the season. I did the same thing last season. I wildcarded early, my first wildcard. I was itching for that second wildcard, played that second wildcard, and then about 5 games into that, I needed another wildcard. I didn't have one, so I had to go for the last 10 to 15 games of last season, the game weeks, and I was in a real pickle because I was taking transfer hit after transfer hit after transfer hit. So such an early wildcard now will touch your second wildcard, and then that could lead to a lot of transfer hits in the future. My next point about maybe not wildcarding at the moment is don't follow the crowd. So many people right now, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, on social media, are wildcarding now to fit in just a couple of players after just 2 weeks of football. It increases the FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? So it's like if you buy a car and then like a year later or whatever, your friend buys a new car, suddenly you want that new car. You look at your boring team that you prepared a couple of weeks ago and you see they're nice, shiny, new, currently informed players, and it makes you want to go towards it. So you've got Pookie, you've got Kevin De Bruyne, you've got Ceballos, you've got Cantwell, you've got Lundstrom even, and you want them in the team and be all nice and new and look at my good new informed team that's informed right now. Just for me, try to avoid this kind of mentality. You'll end up with another template team and stuck again in about 3 to 5 game weeks. Try to watch games, get the eye test out there. So like I mentioned before about Sigurdsson, he's 8 million. That's fine. He has blanked so far, but he has looked good. It is there. He's just not getting it quite yet. And the fixtures are still there for Everton. So again, when looking at your team, also it's the needs of your team, not the people that you see on the internet. a lot of people that seem to be wildcarding now are saying, oh, I don't have Sterling, or oh no, I don't have Salla or Mane. That's why they're transferring, because they need to put that one big player in and they need to remove and reorganize the entire of their team. Maybe you have, so I have Salla and Sterling. I don't need that big reorganization right now. So if you're sitting there thinking so many people are doing wildcards right now because they don't have Sterling, they need the wild card to sort of move all of the rest of the squad around. Whereas if right now you have Salla and Sterling, or even if you're comfortable right now with just Sterling, you don't need that mass reorganization. So when people say, I'm wildcarding, I'm wildcarding, I'm wildcarding, and you're thinking, oh, I want to do it too, look at your team about wildcarding, not other people's teams, because chances are those other people are saying, I don't have Sterling, I don't have Salla or Sterling, or I don't have Salla and Sterling. Another issue that I'm seeing as well with the wildcard thing at the moment is I'm seeing a lot of now wildcard templates. A lot of people are laughing and joking and poking fun at the so-called Twitter template of having the same players in, but I am seeing a lot of wildcard templates. So pretty much almost all the teams I'm seeing right now have Ceballos at Arsenal, Martial at United, Kevin De Bruyne, Sterling, and then Salah or Mane. Every midfield sort of looks the same. They've got the, I can't say his name, Sonchu, the Leicester defender, the 4.5 million Leicester defender. They've got Dunk, they've got Dean. They've got now one Liverpool defender instead of two. It just feels, oh, and of course Pookie up front. How can I have not mentioned him yet? And for me, you're just seeing the same teams again. So when I'm talking about getting stuck, in a few game weeks, you could be stuck with the same problem. You have the same wildcard team now as other templates, and then you're in a real rut. More so, I see a lot of people going either one striker Pookie or Pookie and another 6.5 million striker, or even if you can stretch to Barnes, so 6.5, 6.6 million striker. And the real issue with that is if Barnes and Pookie, if their goals dry up, there's no sort of, it doesn't feel like there's any room to maneuver, because there's no other players for me right now, strikers for 7 million or less, that seem worth that money. So if Pookie and Barnes don't deliver, you're kind of stuck with those two people until you can wildcard next or save up free transfers and take a transfer hit in the future. Something else as well in terms of this wildcard template that I'm seeing is a lot of the teams are still having the likes of Zinchenko and Kelly still in the side. Remember, it is game week 2, and I know that they're being playing now, but you shouldn't really be thinking that in the next 15 game weeks, Zinchenko is still going to be the left back at Man City. So people will say, well, that's fine, I'll transfer Zinchenko out. But if he doesn't play and Kelly's your sub, you know, Kelly's not going to be playing in 15 weeks' time either. So you're going to play at least one game with 10 men, and all because you wildcarded too early. So with only 2 weeks of information and you're using a wildcard on certain players, they're not even nailed on yet, some of these players. So for me, again, it feels far too early to wildcard with only 2 weeks of information, not in terms of just stats or the games that they've played, but also in terms of, are they truly nailed on right now, even though they've played the first 2 game weeks. The next part is people are wildcarding to try and get on the bandwagon, but to be honest, right now, you've sort of missed the bandwagon. The obvious one right now is Pookie. 4 goals in 2 games. It's sensational, but for me, it's not sustainable. You can argue that he can do it against Liverpool. He can do it against anyone. You know, he's away to a fragile Chelsea defence, and, you know, yeah, he could maybe even get something at City, but you're not expecting him to score against City. If you believe in that, then that is perfectly fine. But the chance that you've missed his best part of the season at his cheapest price, you might be worried that it goes up to 7 or 7.5 million. That's fine. But for me, missing out on one player is worth it when I don't feel personally that it's sustainable for him to get 20 plus goals in the season for me to just wildcard just to sort of slot him in now. I could personally take a 4-point hit. That is something I've been looking at the minute, or even just a 0-point hit and sort of ride it out because I've got 2 free transfers just to get Pookie, and that's fine. But I think wildcarding and leaving yourself, like I mentioned before, with 2 sub 7 million strikers can really sort of trap you in the future, and it could even force you to play one up front, which is something I don't want to do. Despite forwards not being at the best price point or value for points, I don't want to really be playing with one striker up front. The next point is actually a personal emotional feeling that it's much more frustrating to sell a player that you had and watch him score than miss out on a player that you didn't risk on. So no one really could have realistically thought that Pookie was going to score a hat-trick. So if you didn't leave, for example, Josh King away at Villa, and then you had Pookie at home to Newcastle, if you didn't make that decision, then I still think that's still a fine decision. You can be annoyed about it, but I'm looking at my team now and I'm thinking Sigurdsson and Perez away to Villa, away to Sheffield United. If I take out these two players, now these two players would probably leave my team in a wild card, hopefully in a few weeks' time. But if I took them out in a wild card right now and they scored, I would be more angry at my situation than I am giving them another week. You know, like I mentioned before, Perez wasn't just a 2-week punt. I wanted him for the first sort of 4 game weeks. Sigurdsson wasn't just a 2-week punt either. That Everton have got good fixtures for quite a while. So even though that they've blanked so far, I'd be so much more frustrated and angry if I got rid of Sigurdsson and Perez right now and they ended up scoring. So you might be in a similar situation with some of your players. Not so much with Fraser and Wilson because they haven't really showed anything so far and they play Manchester City. So the right decision would be to not play Bournemouth against Manchester City. But I would be more angry in that situation. And the last point now will sort of strain into when I would or when maybe you should wildcard. So the last point against it would be if you only need or want 2 to 3 players. So the final advice would be to just take a small hit. If you save 2 free transfers, then you can basically make 3 transfers for -4 or 4 transfers for -8. Obviously try to avoid any kind of hit. But if you take a -4 hit that allows you to push your wildcard back by, 4 or 5 weeks, then for me that is worth it. I would suggest though, if you were going to take a -4 hit now and then wildcard next week, you might as well just wildcard this week because it seems counterproductive to take a hit and then wildcard straight away. There should be a big gap. So either personally, I don't even feel comfortable this season taking -4, but if you want to take a -8 hit and lower and then wildcard in minimum 3 to 4 weeks, then your points should even out. But if you're taking anything higher than a -8 or you're going to take a really early wildcard in game week 3 or game week 4, then I would actually bring it back and wildcard now. So moving on to now in situations where I would wildcard. I'm not even saying that I'm not going to wildcard right now. I'm really going to fight the temptation because this is still, with just 2 or 3 changes, still a pretty strong squad. So when would I wildcard? Certain circumstances, of course. First and easy of all, you've got a bunch of players that are not playing. Very simple. You start the season with, a terrible squad. You're starting the game with basically 10 players. Some are injured, some are just dropped, some are not playing, and you really need that change. Then, of course, the wildcard situation is there for you right now. The second point that I'm going to make is, which I just previously mentioned, if you're going to take a big points hit. So you want to save your wild card and your heart is just set on a couple of players. You want Heung-min Son, who's back at Spurs. You want Kevin De Bruyne in there. You want to swap Salla for Mane. You want to get Martial in there. You want to drop one of the 2 Liverpool defenders. If you're making like 5+ transfers and you are so determined and so set, and you think Pookie's still going to keep going, and you're so set in this, and you think, at least 15 game weeks, I'm confident this is the team for me. The first pre-season, game week 1, game week 2 team, no information. I've got 2 weeks under my belt. These are the lads to take me forward for 15 game weeks. I'm so confident. My bench is filled now with 4 or 4.5 million players like Lundstrom and Cantwell that are playing, and they're playing quite well. These are the lads for me. Then I would suggest wildcarding if that's really, truly how you feel. If you do a wildcard template, which I actually have a few times, a couple of different templates that I've got, and you think, this will definitely outscore the team I've currently got. I was going to take a -20 hit or a wild card, and then you sort of, after 15 weeks, look at the points and you think, that -20, but I got plus 200 with the new players. It was all worth it. Then I would suggest that you wildcard. The last point is team value and money. If you're already wildcarding right now, chances are that you're up by a few 0 point whatever million because the market is the most volatile now. So with game week 2 hasn't even finished. We've still got Wolves against United and people are transferring all over the place. There's been lots of ups and lots of down already. So if you're doing your wildcards right now, you could be actually getting some money in. So Pookie's 6.7. If you would have brought him in Saturday night at 6.6, you've already got 6.7, and then you can make that money back. So again, I personally won't be wildcarding just to get a few 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3 million, but a few people are doing that, and it is sort of giving them a little bit of extra money in the bank. But I would only sort of go around this tactic if you're already wildcarding now. I wouldn't wildcard just for a couple of 0.1 to 0.5 million. But that is just my sort of, I tried to organize it as best I could. I had a lot of ideas. I saw a lot of things online, a lot of thoughts I had about reasons why or why not to wildcard. Like I said, the biggest thing for me, I think, is the fear of missing out, the fear of missing the bandwagon. People missed out on Jimenez last season, and Doherty last season, people like that, and you're thinking, well, Lundstrom is going to play all season long, or at least for 15 game weeks till next game week, the next card comes. He could be my rotator. I've got to get KDB in now. I want to get Mane in now. I want to get Son in now. And a lot of people, I think, are just afraid of missing out. But once you do the wild card, it cannot be undone. So the biggest point I want to stress to you is how underrated the wild card seems to be. And again, like I mentioned before, play it your own way. If you truly believe your new wildcard squad is the team for you for at least 20 weeks, because it's only in 15 weeks you'll get the card back. You don't want to use it straight away. So in the next 20 to 25 weeks, you really think that team is definitely the team for you, then go for it. But if you've kind of got a similar team to me, like you've got Salla or Sterling or even both, and you've got a Liverpool defender, and you've got a decent striker, you've got a decent midfield, it's not too bad. You're not too far. You're not scoring, 30 points in game week 2 and 20 points in 20 points in game week 1 or whatever. You're on a decent rank right now, and everyone's using the wild card. Anything can happen. Football is a crazy game. So I just want to stress just how important a wild card is. It is your get out of jail free card. And right now it feels like people think that they're in jail, but they're not. They're just waiting for trial, basically. That's the analogy I'm going to run with. It's the idea that people think, one game week, it's horrible, it's terrible. Look around, everyone had it. I've got a green arrow. I've gone from something like 340,000 to 280,000 overall rank, and I've only got 40 points, so not many people have had a fantastic game week. And those who have had a fantastic game week, Captain Pookie, which for me, pre-game was a crazy decision. It's easy to make these decisions in hindsight, and a lot of people are doing that right now. I'm not saying that Pookie's not going to be a great player. I'm not saying that Ceballos or Cantwell are going to be great players. I don't have to talk about, Son and KDB. They are great players anyway. But don't just think because they've had a good 2 game weeks that they are going to be the lads that are going to help you to a successful season for at least 15 to 20 game weeks, because I don't think that's the case. Remember how precious a wildcard is. If you're delighted with your new wildcard team, then sure, hit that wildcard button and go for it. But I just personally feel that just after 2 weeks, no one is essential. Basically, that is, not the obvious Salla, Sterling, Mane, KDB sort of situation. Like, I don't think Pookie is essential yet. That might be controversial. That's fine. Put your opinions in the comments below. I try to be well-rounded and cover all of the points of the pros and the cons, but let me know in the comments below if I've missed anything. Hopefully this was just more of an informal chat and discussion and let you guys know. I'm hoping to get a review video out in the next couple of days, and then I might be streaming on Friday again. It was great to stream properly for the first time on YouTube. So if you guys want to be around for around Friday lunchtime, then that'd be fantastic. If not, no worries. And hopefully you guys will have a better game week 3. I hope we all have a better game week 3. And so, as always, guys, have a good one.